The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Seeds of Wellbeing series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, or funders, and any affiliated organizations involved in this project. Welcome to a Seeds of Wellbeing Voices from the Field podcast featuring voices of Hawaii agriculture producers for Hawaii agriculture producers. These podcasts are made possible by a grant from the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, also known as CTAHR, and the Seeds of Wellbeing, or SO project, and is supported by a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and the Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Presently, our administrator, who is an appointed official under the president's administration, his number one saying is, we need to find a way to say yes. So whatever a farmer needs in agriculture, we need a way to find yes. So utilizing the system that may be antiquated and it has a lot of its own challenges because of the paperwork involved, we still need to focus on how do we say yes and get food being produced.
It has been said that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." But in our episode with Buddy Nichols from the U.S. Department of Ag's Farm Service Agency, there's nothing to fear. Listen as we talk about their loan program that may be the first place you want to look for ag loans as an ag producer, and we also speak about FSA's role related to the Maui wildfires.
Okay, welcome to another Seeds of Wellbeing podcast. We're trying to round out our discussions with folks about funding options for ag producers in Hawaii by speaking with FSA, and Buddy Nichols is kind enough to join us on the call today. So just want to say aloha to Buddy and mahalo for coming on the show.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine, actually. Okay.
What is FSA and what's its role and how does it fit in with the USDA?
Okay. Yeah, Farm Service Agency is an agency of USDA, and we deal strictly with farmers. There's 2 basic sides of the Farm Service Agency. There's the production side or the program side, which deals with disaster type relief. So when Congress passes laws like the Inflation Reduction Act or does anything with farmers and has funding available for any kind of disaster or hurricane, weather related, so on and so forth, that's the side of the program in which everything comes through. So that's the part of the Farm Service Agency is that end, is dealing with disaster type of stuff and funding that comes directly from Congress, usually free type money, if you will, if there's such a word. The other side is the farm loan side, which is lending money, low interest money to farmers to develop farm products, programs, buy land, and we'll get more into that. But the farm loan side is another source of revenue, open all the time, doesn't have to be connected to any disaster or anything on that order. Another part of the Farm Service Agency is crop insurance, which is a part of the production side or the program side, in which for the crops primarily for Hawaii and for here on the islands covers most of all the crops that we have. The things it doesn't cover is corn and wheat and those traditional type of crops. Now, those you can get through crop insurance, normal crop insurance. So we do provide crop insurance capability for anything that isn't traditional, which is pretty much all the crops here on, vegetables, all the fruits, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt. Let me interrupt you for 1 sec, because you piqued my interest for a couple of reasons. One is certainly the recent fires on Maui I would expect qualifies as a disaster. And are you actually, maybe ask you first, are you on Maui?
Well, I'm not on Maui. I'm based out of Honolulu.
Okay.
I was on Maui for 8 years as farm loan manager on Maui, so I'm very familiar with Maui. I work very closely with a lot of the producers on Maui. So yeah, Maui's very fond of my heart because I lived there for so long.
Yeah, and I thought I saw some references to your connection to Maui when I was doing some research. So FSA monies, are they coming into Maui, and are you involved in any of that, or do you know folks from FSA that are involved? What's going on there?
Yeah. Well, what's going on Maui right now is anybody that got affected by either the fire or the high winds is a big item, or anything related there too. There's called the ECP program, in which it is the Emergency Conservation Program, and so there's funds available to help clean up any damages created by the wind or by the fire. Not too many farmers were hit with a fire somewhere. This includes ranchers too, So anything you grow, when you grow anything, you're eligible through the Farm Service Agency. So whether it's trees, you name it, fish, bees, blah, 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 flowers, whatever. So once you create something, once you grow something, you're good to go. So that's primarily what's available there. It's primary cleanup. For any disasters and things like that, were fence building, repairing fences, cleaning up trees, reseeding, and so on and so forth. So that's what primarily from that type of disaster, and that's generally which mainly happens, is particularly with a weather event like that. Droughts, okay, we always have droughts every year, so there's drought relief type programs for feed. For crops getting lost to not having enough irrigation water, so on and so forth. So those are always perpetual. But from the hurricane and from the winds, that's an event declared by the president, so funds become available. Also with that, we have emergency loan funds that come available, but they're pretty competitive with normal loan funds. So there's always money available. No matter what, whether we use emergency loan funds or not, to help get the farm back on its feet. From the farm loan side, the government's position is they're here, they don't want to be your long-term lender, so they're here to make you as successful as they possibly can, so that you can either pay the government off or get a loan from a bank. Here in Hawaii, banks aren't too eager to loan money, perhaps, to farmers. So that's how we play. We come in and help the farmer get to a point where they're very attractive to the other type of lending institutions that are out there. And however we can help them get there, that's what we try to do.
And are you involved in all sides of that? So you work on the disaster side and you work on the loan side. So whatever needs to happen, you're involved with FSA.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The basic concept of USDA has always been hungry people revolt. And that goes back to the Roman days. And so our country wants to keep our people fed. And so consequently, we have programs in place to help make the farm sustainable over the long haul. A big push right now, of course, and it always has been, but it's even more so now, is the next generation. We want the next generation to come to the farm. So in order to do that, we have to compete with agriculture has to compete with every other job market out there to keep the kids at home. And so how do we help our farm families grow, develop, and create a lifestyle that the next generation can follow? Because this is definitely, we're always going to need to eat. We're always going to need to produce it. And so how do we help the next generation prepare for that? So beginning farmers are huge.
Yeah. And so I guess before I ask, I'm curious to know what you've seen with kind of the evolution of younger farmers taking over for older farmers. I know the average age of the farmer in Hawaii is about 62. And I think a lot of them told their kids their kids realized they shouldn't go into farming because it's hard work and doesn't pay well. And so I think we're in this situation where, we may not have food if we can't find younger farmers that want to step up. And so I guess, how many years have you been working for FSA?
I've been working for FSA a little over 10 years.
10 years.
I farmed myself forever.
Okay.
I'm a fourth generation farmer myself. I raised my family on the farm. That was our sole source of income. traditional farming. My parents were there. I bought my parents out when I came back to the farm, and they continued to live on the farm and finished out their life until my mom passed away at 101. So they finished out their life on the farm. So, that's where I come from. I come from that generation. And I farmed until I turned the farm over to my daughters and went to work for USDA, particularly on the finance side, because I saw the great opportunity there was for farmers to acquire capital. We've only got 4 resources. Anybody in the whole world only has 4 resources to work with, and one's money, one's time, one's whatever physical stuff we have, and the other one is human resource. In farming, the human resource is the farm family. Time is only 24 hours in a day. And physical is what we have to work with right now. And so the one that's left out there is money. So how do we get funding, and how do we get funding to fit the farm and what the farm needs? And that's what's the beauty of USDA's program. It's designed for farmers to make them successful and sustainable. It's not designed to make money. It's designed to produce food. So
nice. And yeah, I've heard a few people refer to FSA, USDA, FSA as kind of the lender of last resort, but I don't know if that's how you see it. But I think it seems like that's part of what we're here to talk about, right? Is where does it fit into this whole puzzle? Because we've talked about Kiva loans, we've talked to American Ag Credit. I think we've talked everything in between, right? Small and large. So I think figuring out how FSA fits in is great. One quick question though is, when you farmed, was your family farm in Hawaii? Was it on the mainland, or where was that located?
Yeah, that was located on the mainland.
Okay.
It was primarily dairy.
Okay.
Did value added, took it right to the consumer, blah, blah, blah. There's, typical farm. You name it, we had it. We had hogs, we had chickens, we had crops, vegetables, fruits, blah, da, 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 da.
And your daughter's taking it over and still doing well?
Yeah, they have other outside jobs. They've turned it into organic. They're doing value added. They're taking it right to the consumer. And that's when you mentioned the question earlier about the next generation. That is the future of agriculture. We got to be price makers and not price takers. We can't just say, okay, what's my avocado worth? Well, it's worth what everybody else is selling theirs for. No, my avocado is worth what it means to me to keep my farm sustainable. The consumer will pay for it. No question about that. We've got to start looking at how do we get this to the consumer, closer to the consumer, without being a price taker versus becoming a price maker.
So doing a lot of cost of production analysis, I imagine.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have the finance background as well, or it sounds like you've been doing it your whole life?
Yeah, my original degree was in animal science and production ag. And then I went back and got my MBA in accounting, actually. So yeah, finance is the driver. And, we've set up over the years, conducted groups of farmers, particularly even in dairying and cropping, where our farmers got together. We compared every year our cost of production, our units per pound, units per 100 pounds of milk, units per acre, cost per acre. And as we started moving towards knowing that farmers, I'm my biggest competitor, not my neighbor farmer. But that's pretty traditional for farming. We all help each other out. So, cost per unit, figuring out what it's going to cost us, and then we know what to charge. Because this is what I need. This is what my avocado needs to sell for to make me and my family successful and the next generation. If I know that, then I can go to the consumer. So.
There you go. And can I ask, is your daughter planning to have her children take over the farm, the family farm?
Well, we'll see about that generation, but they're pretty young, so we'll see.
No, but you know what I'm saying, right? Because I think that's what we see, right? Is that actually when we did the Seeds of Wellbeing did the study, it found that the younger farmers are typically struggling the most, right? When we look at the data, it shows that they're really having the toughest time, because I think folks that have been doing it for a long time have figured out how to get through those seasons, those cycles, those hurdles, and have figured out ways to deal with it and still be successful. But I think the younger farmers, right, are running into some of those struggles. So
that's what FSA, let me go there on that. That's what FSA does. We have it's called supervised lending. Now, which means that we'll take financials every year, work with you on your financials every year, do some cost comparisons between previous years and now, what's happened, what's going forward, have those discussions with you so we can help the farmer get to a place where they're looking at their numbers, they're looking at their projections, looking at where they're at, where they're going, and be an active part and help them be more successful. Because again, our job is the best day is when you come in and slap a check down on my desk and say, here you are, buddy, see ya. Because that's the best day of my life, because that means that you've been successful enough to come in and get the government out of, pay your debt or whatever and move on. So we've got you to that point. So so that's what we do.
yeah, so maybe talk us through a typical scenario that you would encounter, kind of beginning to end, for an opportunity for you as lender and for the ag producer.
Yeah, for example, a farmer or somebody comes in, particularly here on the islands, with land being so high. Oftentimes they'll start off with just some lease land, lease some land, and so then they come in and looking for annual operating money to plant the seeds, to pay for the rent, to get things started. So what we lend is 1-to-1. We do not have any down payment. You don't have to bring any skin into the game, whether you're buying real estate, you're buying equipment, or whether you're just doing annual operating expenses. It's just 1-to-1. So whatever you need, we'll lend you. If this pen, for example, costs $1, I'll lend you $1. I don't need your firstborn, just that pen. I'll use this pen for collateral. We're not collateral lenders. Our job is to see that this pen can generate enough money to pay for itself and its recovery and everything else that goes with it. Take care of the family and the pen, and it's our job to make sure that's happening. So we're not collateral lenders, just 1-to-1. If you buy, so you can come in looking for a piece of real estate. You have a piece of real estate in mind. We'll lend you 100% of the real estate. We'll pay for the appraisal ourselves. Our loans are up to 40 years. No closing costs, anything on that order other than what the title company may require to close the deal. Our interest rates, have been notoriously down around 2%. Now they're higher. We're at that 5%, but we can do 40 years on those. If it's more than we can lend up to, right now we can lend up to $600,000, which isn't a lot, but we can do participation loans in which we can lend you $600,000 and you can get the rest from another banker, and we'll hook those banks with you. We can also guarantee that banker, if you will, or that other lender up to 95% of their loan. And we can also set it up where they can come in and they can sell that loan on the secondary market and sell it through the government. The government will actually buy that loan from them and take the risk away from them totally. So the program is set that we can lend you up to whatever that value is going to be. Not all the money will be at that low interest rate. You don't need any money down. You can use our money for the down payment. So you don't need anything down. So that's for buying the real estate to get started farming. If you need equipment, I can lend you equipment. That's for up to money for equipment. That's up for 7 years. And the interest rate is also on that is a little less. It's around about 4% now. It's been down at 1% most of the time. But that's for a 7-year loan. The annual operating loan, okay, that's for fertilizers and waters and leases, even family living. I can lend you money for you to, while you start your farm up, I can lend you money so that you can feed the family while you're getting your farm up and going. So all these things, the whole part of the farm, we can lend funds to help you with that. Also with other programs, so if you're with a different lender or you're doing a conservation program or you're doing a grant and you need funding up front, we can take a position where when you get paid, you pay us and we'll lend you the money to get started with the grant. So a grant will pay you after you do this, then the grant will send you money to to pay for your product or whatever, where you need funds to get started. Well, we can lend you the money up front to help you get that started. Even with the NRCS, which is Natural Resource Conservation Programs, anything on that order where you have to come up with money front, we can help support that. Or another lender that says, okay, you need this. Okay, fine. We'll lend you the money up front on that to get you into that. Because our job is to help you take advantage of other programs. And how can we get that funding and to help you do that?
Well, with all those benefits, I'm thinking there must be lines out the door, and you must be busier than you can keep up with to try to, because like I would think every ag producer in Hawaii would want to knock on your door and try to get resources. I mean, especially infrastructure, if you can helps pay for roads and perimeter fences, all those things that are just impossible to find money on, cash flow, startup costs. It's kind of, to me, it's incredible. So I would think you would be the lender of first resort for me, but tell me what's the catch?
That's how I look at it, the lender of first resort. And oftentimes that's what you always hear is, well, it's too good to be true. Well, this is one of those cases where it's not. This is where the case where Department of Agriculture or Congress, if you will, again, goes back to that concept. We've got to keep our people fed. We got to keep our people nourished. So they've set these programs up so that we can get farmers up and going, knowing perfectly well that we're here to help the farmer get to the point where he takes it to a commercial lender. So you find other sources of funding. But we've got to get you there first. We got to get the farmer to that level first. So yeah, we can get, our biggest challenges, and that's why working with you is so important, working with CTAHR, working with working on this project you're working on is so important to get that word out there. What is available? There's so much available. Particularly, like I said, if I'm going to buy a $2 million piece of property, and so I lend you the $600,000, which covers, or FSA lends you the $600,000, which covers your down payment. You get it from another lender, so you're in at 100%. Then I can work with that lender and get that loan guaranteed up to 95%. So they're covered no matter what. And then I can also work with Farmer Mac 2, which is also created by Congress, to buy their own loans out. So they have set the program up so that, basically the commercial lenders or the private sector is not at risk at all. So that we can help farmers produce food.
So it's like some of the other folks like Steward Lending, or we were talking about Feed Hunger, right? Was another one that's in a similar area. You and I were talking before we started recording about Feed Hunger, and American Ag Credit, right? And of course, more traditional banks. But I think, as you indicated earlier, traditional banks, I think, are usually not worth trying to go to. So I'm feeling like Steward, the American Ag Credit, Kohala Center has the Kiva program and some microloans. Those, I think, or Feed Hunger, right, are options for ag producers that I think people think of. But I guess I feel like with all these great things you said, and from, again, this is gossip or hearsay perhaps, but I feel like, do I need to be denied by American Ag Credit before I can come approach you? Is that how that works? Or I feel like there's a catch, right? Because it does sound so good, and I feel like everyone should be lining up to get funds.
Yeah. Well, in the past, notoriously up until this last two administrations, it's been where, you've got to be denied somewhere else, and we're not competing against commercial lenders. Those days are gone. The new era is USDA is here to fund farming and to help ag, because we're seeing it across the country. We're seeing bigger farms owned by, we're seeing farmers not own land, and they might be leasing thousands and thousands of acres, but they don't own it. It's owned by some other company, some whatever, some investor group, whatever. So, trying to get more traditional, trying to keep that land in agricultural standpoint, that is kind of what the government's heading towards and has headed towards. And right now, in the past like I said, in the two administrations, it's been, yep, those days are gone. We're here to help farmers and get the best deal. So if for ourselves, if another program can get you a better deal and get you what you want, then we're going to help you, support you, and help you get that. Because we want that. We want you to get the best deal we can for the farm. Because the farm's in control. It's not about me, and it's not about even the farmer. Sorry to say, the farm is in control. The farm got to produce the product. It's got to sell it. It's got to make the profit. So we're all here to help the farm be successful. If that means using any other type of program, bring it on. We want to make sure that happens.
Sounds like you're connected in with all of them.
We have, yeah. We're here to help them be successful. And like I said, we're not here to make commission. We're not here to make money. Congress, we're just not here to do that. That's the beauty of it. That's why I'm here. I'm here because that's the opportunity is. Being a fourth generation farmer, it keeps coming back to me time and time again is, I was raised in the country, helped my neighbors, so on and so forth. And it's the only reason I'm here. I'm here to help farmers be successful. And this is a great way to get money out there to help farmers be successful. Because I'm part of that community. I'm part of the ag community.
Nice. Well, right. So I'm an ag producer myself, and so of course, all this is interesting to me with that hat on, right? So I'm thinking, what do I have to bring to the table? I have to farm has to be registered with the state. I have to be filing. Do I have to be filing years? It sounds like I don't if it's startup, but it sounds like you need financials, you need projections, you need cash flow analysis. What kinds of things would I need to bring or have ready to bring to you when I approach you to look for some funding opportunities?
Yeah, when you come in, primarily is what's your projection? What are you seeing? What are you going to grow? What's your market? What's your projection? What are you seeing? Now, you don't have to have it written down on paper. I'll help you with that. But at least we start that process of what are you going to do? Is it going to be leased ground or is it going to be purchased ground? And then we start pushing the numbers, working the numbers with you and analyzing the numbers with you. If you've got those numbers, great. If you don't, we'll help you get there. We not only from the people we have different groups that we're attached to that can help you set up your computer systems, blah, 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 blah. Producer education is a big thing that we have access to so that we can bring that to you so that you can hook into university groups, Go Farm, whatever the program is to help you get started. An idea of what you're going to do is really good. This is the crop. This is where I can sell it. This is how much I can sell it for. Do your due diligence. And then whatever you need, we'll work with you to help you get that due diligence that you're going to need as you're trying to put this together. So it's kind of a growth process. Oftentimes when you walk in, here's my application. It's going to, we're going to work with you to see what we can do to help you be successful on the front side. In the past, notoriously, experience-wise, for real estate, they always said, well, you needed 3 years of experience. And I hear that out there. But anything is experience. We're doing a business, that's experience. Coming from a family farm, that's experience. Having education, that's an experience. Selling a crop, that's an experience. So those kind of requirements keep dropping lower off more and more and more. And this fall, we're looking at probably that 3-year requirement or anything on a requirement of previous experience for farm ownership is probably going to go away. And right now, if you walked in and say, I've been raising, I've got some avocado trees, I've got some crops, I've been selling at the farmer's market periodically, I've been doing this, I've also, have a small business that I do landscaping, whatever, blah, 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 all that counts, and it's not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Well, so it's almost like you're a case manager. I'm using, of course, Seeds of Wellbeing is about mental health. So I think of mental health case managers, but it's almost like that is your role, is just to to help anyone work through the process and be connected with resources, not just the FSA loan program.
Yeah, and working with, and I can't say enough about the university system. It's huge. That's where the information is. You guys carry that information, you bring that information, and how we can work with getting that farmer hooked into the university system and understanding what yields are, understanding what's out there. That's huge because, we're not here to manage their farm. I mean, that's not, don't ever get us wrong on that. If you let a banker manage your farm, you're not going to survive. That's the way it goes. It's the farm. It's not about any individual. It's not even about the farmer. The farmer is just there to help the farm be successful. So we're all there to help the farm keep successful. So that's what our drive is. How do we help the farm be successful? The farmer's a part of it. Everybody's a part of it. So, yeah.
Nice. So just on average, you have a sense of, I imagine there's a wide variety of the folks you see and the opportunities and the situations, right? But like if I were to approach you today and say, I need a loan to try to do X, Y, and Z for this farm or for a new farm opportunity, like, is it a lengthy process? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it multiple years? I'm sure it depends on a lot on how prepared the person is that approaches you and how much information they have. But is it, assume that I have my financials, assume I have a property picked out. Can it be a fairly quick process or is it fairly lengthy?
No, generally, for farm ownership is usually the longer process. So you come in with an application, I generally tell everybody when you need a contract or you're getting ready to sign a contract. So when I tell everybody, okay, set your contract for if there's no environmental concerns, in other words, if you're not going to build something, if you're just going to go to farming, generally, okay, set your contract for 90 days plus a 30-day extension if needed. The appraisal will take 30 days for real estate. This end of story. So give yourself a couple weeks, 2 weeks to a month to get all the information put together, get it processed through, get obligated, and then then appraisal comes in, and then give the title company a couple weeks to do their work and get everybody together. So that's where the 90 days come in. And then 30 days, okay, if something goes wrong, there's some glitch with some kind of easement on the property that nobody knew about, and they got to figure it out, and blah, blah, blah. So that's it. As far as our turnaround time right now is 28 days on all of our loans. So that's how fast we can, once you walk in with an application, 28 days later, you'll have the money in your hand. So
Wow. That's
and oftentimes it's quicker than that, but 28 days is our average because that's also taken into real estate, which may take 90 days. So we can move them through pretty fast.
It just floors me. I just had no idea. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I reached out. So is there, again, I keep looking for catches, so bear with me. So is there like a set pool of funds every fiscal year that's available, and so you have to get on that list quick, or are there limits like that I should be thinking about, or we should
last year I think the Congress set aside $6 billion, and I think we only used $4 billion across the country. So there's $2 billion out here waiting for you to come and get it. So
yeah, that should do it. Just a bunch of $600,000 loans, it sounds like, right? And I can
so
line all those up.
So we do have the favor of Congress, but this is, and that's one of the beauties of it is the fact is, the program pretty well breaks even for Congress, so it doesn't cost them any money. So that's how they can keep the interest rates low, and because it's not costing them any money. So this is one of those programs that, most programs that the government pays for cost them money. They don't get anything back. So this one here is not a break even.
So sounds like really low or non-existent default rates. Is that true?
Yeah, right now we're below 5%. Most of the time, across the entire state. For this entire state, we're about 4.2, 4.5, something like that. We haven't had to foreclose since I've been here for 8, 9 years now. We've never foreclosed on anyone. We always find a way. See, that's another beauty of the program. The program has, I can come in and restructure again. If we're having problems, if Mother Nature, we know Mother Nature's, that's the beauty of the program. We know it's designed for farmers. We know Mother Nature's going to spank us. We just don't know which day. So if she comes in and spanks us, or he or she, Mother Nature comes in and spanks us today, then I got restructure type programs where I can come in and I can I can change a 7-year loan into a 15-year loan. I can change it longer. I can re-amortize out. I can do, debt set-asides. I can do a lot of different programs to get the farm back to square one, get through that tough period, whether it's pricing, whether it's weather or whatever.
And it doesn't require a quote unquote disaster to happen. You can do that. Okay.
I can do that anytime. Outside your control. COVID, prime example. No market. No market. You had nowhere to go with your crop. You have to throw your crop away. Blah 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 blah. Okay, we can come in and restructure it, and we can take that out. And basically, the restructure is okay. It's not working here for 7 years. Let's take it to 15, and it works for 15 years. We're good to go. So if it's not working today, we have to prove that it's not working today. And then after we prove that it's not working today, then we prove that, okay, by restructuring you and doing these changes, that boom, is going to work in the future. Good to go. We're off and running. Yep. So I can take an annual operating loan, that you're going to use for fuel and fertilizer. I can take that out to 15 years on a restructure, because we're just going to have the future crops pay for it. And we just got to make sure that we got the future crop can do it, and that we're not demanding too much on that future crop where that future crop cannot do it. So we're trying to look at it from a crop basis. If we're looking at the crop and say, hey, Mr. Tomato, you're going to have to pay for all this stuff. Can you do it? And then we'll figure out and we'll help that tomato plant be successful to do that.
Nice. Yeah, I like how you're talking to the food, right? The food is the boss.
Very much so. Very much so. That's the driver.
Yeah.
The food, the tomato plant is giving me its offspring, the tomato, for me to support the plant.
Yeah.
So I've got to respect that. I've got to respect that, and I have to give it that admiration, if you will, or whatever. Respect that it's given up its child to help support that plant and to help support this earth and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, very important.
Nice focus. So here I'm going to take another run at this from a slightly different field. So why would I not go to you?
I don't know.
Are there scenarios that just don't fit for folks that approach you?
Yeah, if you got free money, no point in borrowing money. If you got free money. If you got a better deal, no point to come to me if you can get a better deal. How can I use you? How can we utilize these funds? Yeah. If you need outside capital other than your own capital. Now, I used to have a partner in one of the farms I used to have that always was about, I'd much rather use your capital than my capital. And that's how he looked at it. So he would much rather go somewhere like the USDA, get their capital and use their capital and keep his capital for other things. So, yeah, if you have, if there's something better out there, free money, cheaper money, however, then yeah. That's why you wouldn't, that's why you look somewhere else.
Yeah. So again, I feel like it's changing my phrase to be, the lender of first resort is really where it feels like folks should always start with you. And then, because you have the connections to the other resources, you'll know what's going to work, what the limits are. It sounds like that $2 billion that's out there in petty cash waiting to be spent is, it's available. All of it could go to Hawaii, or is that a nationwide number, or do they have certain amounts that are pots that are just by state basis, or how is it just it's all available, first come, first serve?
Yeah, generally the 6 billion is for across the country, and so we just request for national when we have a loan. Last year, normally we'll do, our goal is to do 50 million a year. Last year we did 60. So yeah, we passed our goal, so we're going to have to raise that goal. But yeah, so and I'd like to see all 6 billion come to Hawaii in the basin. So we got a long ways to go to get that kind of capital here. Now, the rule of economics is, or it used to be, 10 to 1. For every new dollar we bring in, generates $10 in the community. So yeah. So that's a big thing we can do for the basin, is bring that kind of funding in from the mainland, if you will, here to help our farmers here. Who will help the tractor guy, who will help the fuel guy, who, blah, 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 blah.
Those other $10, those other $9, right? Yeah, got it.
It's what?
Those, well, of the $10, right? You got to, for one that you bring in, you got to pay $1 to the tractor guy, the fuel guy, right?
Yeah.
No, I like it. So what's the process like? I mean, I think there's folks on all the different islands, is that right? And you're maybe at the hub in Oahu, but what's the process if I'm on the Big Island, for example, or folks are on Maui, or folks are on Kauai, or, what's their process to try to approach you folks, and what's the first step?
Yeah, we have offices on every island. FSA does. Farm loan, we have one on Maui, we have one on the Big Island, we have one on Oahu that takes care of Kauai. Maui takes care of Molokai and Lanai. So we'll lend money to any island, no matter where you're at. We have an office in Guam. We have an office in America Samoa, which is also part of our program. So wherever we are, we have loan officers in all those areas. Now, what we do here in Hawaii is we pool it. So first in, first out. So a loan officer might be working on your loan. He may be located in Honolulu, but he's working on your loan on the Big Island. Because even though the islands are different, but our ecosystems are very similar on all islands. So you'll be working primarily, whoever the farmer is, working with somebody local, but we pool it, and that's how we get this high turnaround time, because we can be able to work on as a whole unit with all of our loan officers. We have 15 people on our staff, and so we consolidate. We find ways in order to get things done for wherever you're at. So if you're on the Big Island and you're trying to close on a piece of real estate, I may have somebody working on Maui working with a closing agent to get all the paperwork in place, because it's shuffling paper, and get all the paperwork in place to make that happen quickly for you without, fuss or muss. And so we definitely work as a team to get things done. Like I said, I call it first in, first out, just because I appoint every week we meet, and okay, who's got what, where we at, who needs the help, how can we get things done quicker, how can we make things happen faster.
And so is there I noticed on your website, it shows all the folks and phone numbers and email addresses. Email best? What's the best way to do the initial approach for you folks? Do I look for the resource on the island that serves me? Do I reach out to you directly? I'll probably put something in the show notes. So just for that mindset, what's the easiest way to start the process with you folks?
Contact your local office, email your local people, give them a call, go see them. My generation was all about, and I'm still that way. I want to talk to you. So anyway, long story longer. So you can go see him, you can talk to him, you can email him. You can email me, because we communicate very closely together and try and get you hooked up. So that a loan officer, so somebody close to you, on your island or very close to you, or is covering your island, is in contact with you to make sure that they can help you get your application in, meet all those parts, because it is government paperwork. And so we're here to help you. Come on in. An hour later, we'll have a complete application, and we'll work with you to get that done. Yeah.
Nice. And what's your job title there?
Pardon me?
What's your job title?
I'm farm loan chief
Okay.
for the Hawaiian Basin. Yep. Well, for the Pacific Basin, which includes American Samoa, Guam, and all the islands.
So for Hawaii, does the buck stop with you essentially with these loans?
Seems that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And another thing is we don't do things by committee. Each loan officer makes the decision. It's their decision. If it's outside of their lending limit, if you will, I have the ultimate highest lending limit, so it'll come to my desk. But one person makes a decision. It's not a group decision. It's not about blah 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 blah. You know, and yeah, it's all about one person making that decision. And yep.
So maybe just give us a couple examples of the range, maybe on just to give us a sense of the range of the types of loans you've been involved with over the past few years, let's say.
Yeah. Well, like I said, let me start with value added. Once you grow a crop, I can help you take it all the way to the consumer. So an example is I grow a crop and I have a food truck. I can finance the food truck. I can finance everything that's in the food truck. I can finance the crop. I can finance anything connected to you taking it to the consumer. So I've done a fair few of those as of late, where we're doing food trucks or they're doing farm tours, you know, working with the hotels and, you know, doing ag tourism. We can help any part of that, whether you need a van or whatever. So as far as, so that's the kind of, so if you're growing, another example, you want to grow fruits and you're going to grow fruits in this particular area, I can help you design your farm with, a series of different crops so that as your farm grows, you're producing funds the whole entire way, all the way through. Irrigation systems, same type of deal. I can help you with that. I can help you to establish an irrigation system. Working with NRCS, such as they're doing cover crops, or if they're doing greenhouses, we've helped finance, put them on with NRCS, which is going to end up paying for the greenhouse. But you have to build it, then they reimburse you. So we lend the money to you, the farmer. You build the greenhouse. You go to NRCS. They pay you for the greenhouse. You reimburse us. So we do greenhouses. Value added, you know, like I said, value added is always the most interesting one because people will, you know, I'm growing some kind of particular herb, and I'm making a spread, and I'm going to make some kind of macadamia nut spread and sell it. Okay, I can help you with that because you're growing the herb that's going in there. I can help you all the way through it. So that's a big item. Animals. 4-H, we have a youth program. There's an example. Here we have a youth program in which if you're in 4-H or if FFA or any youth or one of the associations, livestock associations youth program, we can help you help the kids finance their animals. We can help them. I had one particular girl that came to us when she was 8 years old. I can lend her $5,000. I lent her $5,000. She bought 4 head of cows. When she graduated and went to college, she had a herd of 50 head. All started with those 4 cows. And she showed them 4-H, and pretty soon she was raising them and selling them and so on and so forth. So there's programs such as that. So we help with that a lot.
Wow, quite the range. And then of course the traditional loans that you were talking about for ag properties too. So I mean, it's a great story. It's a great range of options too. I'm really impressed. So I feel like because of the Seeds of Wellbeing project, right, which is trying to help ag producers in Hawaii, I'm thinking that with your experience and with your role, that is there advice that you might want to share or tips that you might want to share for Hawaii's ag producers that might help them if they're struggling at the moment?
Yeah, basically the advice is let the farm work the numbers, work your numbers, work with CTAHR, work with people that know the numbers, know what production yields are. First off, know what your numbers are so you know how to price your crop, and let your let your crop be the driver. on that. Because this is what I need for my crop, for my farm, for this farm that I'm helping be successful. That's probably the biggest thing. And then if, for example, avocado is going to cost me $20 to produce an avocado, and I can't find a market for $20 for this avocado, then I probably ought to look at what else this farm can do, because this avocado can't do it. So what else can I do for this farm? Maybe I put that into guacamole. Maybe I go value added. Maybe I do some other things, but look at my opportunities. But at least I know what can be done and what can't be done. So it gives you the options.
Yeah, eyes wide open, and listen to your food.
Yeah, that's right. Listen to your food.
Maybe don't play with your food, but listen to your food.
Yeah, let your food be the driver. Let your food be the driver.
Nice.
It'll tell you.
And maybe you don't want to go there, but I figured the Maui fires are so much in everybody's hearts, minds, and it's so devastating, right? And so I don't know if you want to share anything about your involvement there, your connections there, the status of things, or what you've been seeing, and perhaps how FSA has maybe been trying to help.
Yeah, I'd worked back in the day. This is in 2013. I worked with FEMA on a flood situation, and this was back in Colorado, where I was from, and thousands of acres, rivers moved, so on and so forth. So I worked with FEMA. So when FEMA came in, and they came in immediately, and the person that I was working with, I helped them load ships down here in Honolulu, going over there in the middle of the night, Navy ships. So I got to see it firsthand real early, like within a day, because the guy called me and says, "Hey, what are you doing? I know you can run equipment." And so they're particular, that's the first wave. The first wave of FEMA is we come in and we help. We bring, and we dump off. So anyway, so that was the initial. That was the initial involvement in that type of catastrophe over there. The biggest challenge for farming after that fire is the market. Farmlands, there wasn't a lot of farmlands affected, but the families that were affected in our community is huge. We're talking COVID type of days. We're talking about people wanting to stay home. People aren't traveling. People aren't doing things. They're hunkering down. We're helping farmers bring in more produce food for those people that are now homeless. That's a big item. Oftentimes that's free food that the farmer's not going to get paid for. So his market is being affected. So that's our biggest challenge right now, is helping farmers with either this restructuring or other things that we can do to get them financially through these times, because the market has fallen out of bed for farmers that are selling locally. The farmers that were affected, we have a few. We don't have a whole lot that were affected, because we don't have the fires were primarily residentially located, in the Lahaina area. So our big push is to see how we can help those farmers get through this tough time, get through those times as they're donating their time to their community, being a part of their community, helping them refurbish, and how can we support their farm so their farm is producing food and keeping their family going while they're helping other families. That's our biggest hope. Those farms that did get some burn, of course, we will. We've got programs in place, disaster type programs that's going to get them started back up in business again. Of course, we have farm loan money available to help them also on that, and trying just to stay involved in that way.
It sounds like having conversations and restructuring loans, and the same things you've had to do through COVID, because you've been through those years, certainly at FSA, and seen what that's like. Right.
There's a lot of them, a lot of our farmers sold to the hotels and local markets there in Lahaina, and that was a big area. So those are gone. It's just like that. Mm-hmm. It happened within the fire hit Tuesday, I believe it was. Well, by Thursday or Friday, their orders fell out of bed. So they already had crops harvested, sitting there in the pile. What do I do with this? So they donated them. It's rightfully so, you know. They donated them and they had homes for them to feed people. But however, the cash revenue dropped. So how do we help them recover and get through these tougher times of keeping the farm going so that we can help the community rebuild and keep everybody fed while we're rebuilding our community?
So it sounds like, is it selling or getting product to other islands or to the mainland or overseas? Or, I mean, what are some of the solutions for those ag producers that have no market locally anymore?
Well, as far as getting crops overseas, that gets to be kind of tough. Get into the other islands is quite helpful, and particularly, you know, for those, you know, as we look at Maui, there's you know, everybody's supporting them. So Maui grown crops are, of course, looked very highly upon. People want to help the island of Maui, so that's a very local thing. Moving crops to mainland has always been a challenge. It's pretty hard to compete with the Mexicos and South America. One of the things that COVID helped us a lot with in agriculture is the fact is people wanted to know where their food came from. And we need to keep that sentiment out there and entice people to utilize local food. You know, the school system has been very good and very supportive on that. We'd like to see more local ag get into our school system and make that more competitive, if you will, for our local farmers. Tough deal, because, you know, we always don't know what we'll have today. When we have squash, what do we have? We have squash, we have corn, what do we have today? So it's a little hard to set up a menu when you don't know exactly what you're going to have every day, but at least.
Right.
So we got to get through some of those challenges. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We talked a little bit with Kamehameha Schools about their goal of having 50% local and some of those challenges for sure. But I think, you know, having co-ops where folks can, or hubs where folks can basically band together and have that consistency, right? So you always want squash and tomatoes and corn, let's say, then somebody is growing it, right? And they can all kind of band together to help. I think GAP certification is, I think, one of the hurdles that folks have talked about for school systems or some of those markets. But I think there are folks that are trying to make group GAP and things like that an easier solution to get on that school lunch wagon, the school lunch menu, I guess. No, but this is great. I think I'm really glad we had a chance to talk. I think this will be great info for our ag producers in Hawaii. I think you folks are doing amazing things. It reminds me, again, on the podcast, we spoke with Tim Richards, senator from the Big Island, and the way he put it was government's role is to get in there early, provide some resources and money, help get things up and running, and then get out of the way. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing, and with all the supports as well. So seems like a great solution. So I'm going to recommend you first when people ask me in the future.
We hope you enjoyed this talk story with Buddy, and thank him for the time and information he has shared about FSA assistance available to our ag producers. Please check the show notes for links, and please like and subscribe to let us know what you think. Mahalo.
Born optimism, you know, farmers are born with optimism. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. Today may rain. Today we may have had high winds. Tomorrow the winds will die down and we're going to be planting and we're going to have a new crop tomorrow. So that's kind of how we're trying to run the program here too.
It sounds like you can honestly say, hello, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Everybody hates that, but yeah, hopefully we are here to help. We are here to help what we can. So.
And you can actually make it happen.
The intention of these podcast series is to create a safe space for respectful and inclusive dialogue with people from across a broad and diverse spectrum involved in growing and making accessible the food we share together. A diversity of voices, perspectives, and experiences can serve to deepen mutual understanding, to spark creative problem solving, and provide insight into the complexities of our agricultural system. If you, our listeners, have experiences with Hawaii agriculture ecosystem, from indigenous methods, permaculture, smallholder farmers, to large, including multinational agricultural industrial companies, and everywhere in between, and you would like to share your story, please contact us. We welcome your voices and perspectives.